Sometimes being a woman can be complicated. There's so many different parts of ourselves, but how do we strip ourselves from the box and embrace every part of our unique selves so that we can show up in authenticity?
Today's guest, Jennica Anusua, is here to show us how to live an authentic life where we first love ourselves and then we can truly love and see others for who they are. Stay with us on today's Go and Be. Hello and welcome to Go and Be. I am Michelle McCullough, joined with Christy Gardner today, and we also have a fantastic guest with us. It is not every day that Christy and I dress like twins, but for today's conversation, we felt like it was really important and also just a little bit of fun, because today we have with us Jennica Anusua, and she is here as an artist of all kinds. She has done movies with our fun friend Paige, and that's how we got introduced into this conversation. But she's also a mental health professional. We're going to be having a fantastic conversation today, so thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
I am so excited because we get to delve into a really interesting topic, which is authenticity. How do you earn the right to call yourself an authentic individual? I don't think it comes easily, and I don't think it comes through having a totally easy, seamless life. And our guest today, Jennica, has really earned the ability to call herself an authentic person. So Jennica, when we talk about this, where does your story start in earning this title of authentic?
Well, first I have to thank you for saying that I've earned that. I don't always know if I feel like I have, but I really appreciate that.
We've known you for this short amount of time, and we can say you come across as so authentic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I think my story really begins with my adoption. I'm adopted from India. I was born in Calcutta, and my mother adopted me from India by herself. She's a single mother. She never got married. Not because she wasn't interested, but she just didn't ever find the exact right match, which is okay. And so she adopted my sister, who's 5 years older than I am, before me, and adopted another little girl as well. That girl, unfortunately, died of pneumonia right before she came to the United States. So my mom sort of got bumped to adopting me. I was just another baby amongst many in the orphanage I lived in. So when my mother adopted me, the orphanage had lost its license to let children in and out, and so she wasn't sure I was ever going to arrive. And then eventually I did get here because the Indian government renewed the orphanage's license to let children in and out, and I arrived in the U.S., which was great.
At how old did you arrive?
I was 1 when I came. I was supposed to come much earlier, but I was 1. And I was also quite sick. I had a lot of ear, nose, and throat issues, so I had to be rushed to the hospital when I first came. And then I got better, which was great. And then a few years later, I was diagnosed with leukemia. So I'm also a cancer survivor, which I think, when I think now about my young life and the way I've thought about who I am and what defines me and what shaped a lot of my life, those early life experiences make a big impact. You know, they're a big part of why I am the way I am, why I've been encountering the world the way I have, especially with surviving orphanhood, getting to the United States, and then surviving cancer. I think those things really taught me, especially at a young age, how precious life really is, and that if you're living it in a way that doesn't feel like you, you're living it in a way that doesn't feel true to not only who you are, but to the things you can give to the world around you, then you're not really living authentically, so to speak.
That's
really
great.
Interesting.
And can we just give a little shout out to your angel mother for just a minute? Who I just think that's such a great story.
She's amazing, yeah. She's wonderful. She got her PhD while I was going through cancer treatment. So
wow.
Yeah, she's my hero.
I love that. Tell us a little bit about who you are now and the things that you're working on and passionate about, and how all of these experiences shaped how you're giving back in the community.
Yeah, thank you. I would say who I am now, I used to think, I have to have this like cohesive one thing that's who I am, this narrative of I'm this thing. And now I'm realizing to really embrace all the facets of the things that contribute to who I am. And so I would say as an artist, as an actress, as a musician, I feel as though I get to be myself. I get to delve into these different pieces of emotions that I have felt or experiences that I go through, but also I get to go back into the way I've seen other people reflected in my life. I get to go through how the people in my life have impacted me and the way they might see the world or they might interact. And that's really beautiful for me. When I was going through my undergraduate, I also did English literature. I did a lot of writing, poetry, and so that's also been kind of a component of the artistic side. And as I've gotten older, and especially in the last couple of years, being able to elevate and represent minority women has been really important to me. So in my acting career, it's really important to me to elevate and empower women of color in particular.
You know what I love about this is where you talk about the unboxing of womanhood, because I think that our listeners and our watchers can really relate to feeling like they have to put one label on themselves of what it means to be a woman.
Oh, absolutely.
And what you're telling us is that you can actually free yourself from that box and find different facets of womanhood.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think when we're thinking about what it is to be not only just ourselves as humans, but especially for us as women, we always have these labels that we have to fall into, or groups of activities or obligations maybe we have to do. I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a this. And those things are all great. And then I'm also a working woman who does this one job and I do these things. But the reality is that you're multifaceted, you're brilliant, you have all these pieces of you that contribute to why you are the way you are and how you engage with the world around you and the people that you love and the people you don't know. And the more you can say each element of who I am and how I feel about those elements is so valuable. And it's so inherent to why we live and why for me, it's about like the human experience. So yeah, I think that process for me has been very much a journey. It hasn't been something I just suddenly thought, I really want to like every piece of me. I really want to just embrace that I do mental health work. I want to embrace that I think it's been this journey of figuring out why I love the things I love and how I can use each thing to bring light to the world, to bring goodness to people around me, and to bring this honesty about lived experience to the forefront. So if I can show how a refugee woman that I work with, for example, lives and experiences the world and how her life experience shapes the way she encounters the world around her through a story, great, I can do that. If I, as an actress, can go into the studio and film someone else's story that's not my own and share how that person lives, beautiful. If I can elevate someone on my social media and say, look at what this person's doing, isn't that fantastic? Great. And then if I can also go into the world just as me and say, I care about this, I care about you, I care about you, and each person in my life matters, and I'm giving each of them space to feel like they can be exactly that. They can embrace all those elements.
And as we talk about the path to authenticity, I think that's what it is, the learning to embrace all of these elements.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your path and the roles that you have and the hats that you wear came naturally to you, or did you ever feel pulled down a path that you knew you should do, even though you knew it wasn't right for you, and then had to course correct?
Yes, gosh, that is such a hard-hitting, good question. I would say, in terms of mental health work and working with refugees and those pieces, that my mother is a psychologist, so I always felt drawn. And I think from the moment when I was 5 years old, we had this book of places all over the world, and I would run up to my mom and point to pictures and say, like, what's this? Who's this? And they were children from all over the world with all these different beautiful skin tones and beautiful hair and just different clothing. And I said, I'm going to help children. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go meet all these children. And eventually that grew into this passion for supporting people with different cultural backgrounds. I've lived all over the world in various contexts to work in mental health work with these populations. And I think that felt natural. Performing and has always also been like it's just who I am. I think my mom recalls a memory when I was 3, and she took me to just a dance class because I kind of like to move, and I was still going through cancer treatment at the time. And she said, I was in the room and all these other kids were kind of playing with their moms, and she said I was just kind of strutting around, dancing a lot. And so she said, I knew you were a performer, I knew you were a dancer. And so that's always felt very natural to me. But there have been a lot of times where I've done what you've said or mentioned, where I thought, maybe I should do this specific thing. Maybe I should go this specific way, even if it doesn't feel natural to me. Like when I'm in school, or when I was in school, if I felt really drawn to acting, if I felt really drawn to performing, but I thought, oh, that's not a sensible, stable career, Jennica. You've got to do this thing. And when I was in high school, I was really passionate about performing and acting. And I had a teacher once tell me, oh, you're so great. You love to sing and dance, play instruments, but I just don't think, you'll ever really make it as a performer. You'll never make it in theater. You'll never make it in
What was
film.
the reasoning?
Well, and for that person, they said, you just don't have the right look. You won't be a lead. You could be and it kind of really came down to my ethnicity, I think. And that's been a big piece of this identity, authenticity, embracing that I've had to go through, thinking about, do I like me? Do I really like me in this skin? Do I like me with this hair? Do I like me with dark eyes? Because when I was little, there was a period of time where I really prayed every night that I would wake up white, that God would bless me and I'd wake up white. And I think as I start to go through the process of being authentic, but also really liking the things that I bring to the world, there's this component of recognizing that everyone has their thing. Everyone has their thing that they're coming from. And even if we looked the same, even if you and I all looked the same, we'd each be so unique and authentic in our own way. And that really matters. And it's not even what you do, it's how you do it that matters. That when you bring yourself to the table, when you bring everything that you are into this space, people love that. People want that.
But like you talked about, it's a journey.
100%.
It started from this girl who was praying that she could be white, who was being told that the color of her skin would prevent her from showing up in the world in the way that her heart was telling her she wanted to show up. Fast forward, and that girl became someone who is showing up in the exact way she wanted to, who loves her skin and eyes and beautiful hair, who loves who she is and is authentic. But what was in that gap?
Yeah, I would say that's a tough question. I would say a lot of growth, a lot of pain. There was unpacking of trauma in there, thinking about why is it okay to be me? And really, at the end of the day, if I'm not okay with me, does it matter if anybody else is? Does it really matter? I could be living in a multi-million-dollar mansion with this great spouse and these wonderful animals. I could be doing all these big things, but if I don't like me, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And so I think I also found that when I was going out to do things, even if I kind of liked them, maybe I had played at a wedding as a violinist or a singer, or maybe I went to work and did some of my mental health work, but if I wasn't there, and if I had some self-doubt about whether I should be there, whether I deserved to be there, then it didn't work. It didn't come off true. Having these conversations didn't feel good for either party, And so I started to realize maybe there's this blunting or this dulling around me. So I started to look into how do I start showing up more? And it forced me to look inward in a way that I kind of had an idea that might happen, but I didn't know how deep it would go. And I will say too, even now, I do it all the time. I'm engaged in therapy and I'm engaged in other practices that I like, writing, meditating, doing yoga, those things that help me feel like I'm accessing only me and it's a space in which I get to see me clearly. And that helps me then go back out into the world as me, liking myself.
Right.
Well, and I think that's such an important conversation and something that we can each I think about, because one of the things I'm thinking is I have all these ideas about who my identity is in the way that the world would describe me, and thinking about how I am perceived by them. But the reality is that I can't shift from identity to authenticity without loving myself first.
Precisely.
And being clear on who I am. And I think the most authentic and the people that I love to be around the most are the ones who are just confident with themselves, and they embrace all of the good and the bad, the trauma and the triumphs, and all of the talents and the mess ups, and all of the pieces in between. And in that, there's just a comfort of knowing that being human is messy and awesome at the same time. And if you're so worried about your weaknesses, then you'll miss all of the wonderful pieces that were given to you, and all of the talents and skills that you have, and the things that make you really light up. And so I think one of the things that I've been thinking about too for you, tell us a little bit about your faith journey and how you connect, as you talked about meditation and yoga. What does that look like for you on a spirit level?
Yeah, great question. So I'm not LDS, but I was raised Christian and went to a Lutheran church growing up, grew up here in Utah. And my mother was really engaged with me being in my faith, read the Bible a lot with my family, was very engaged in that process. And a lot of my identity growing up came from church. So growing up with my church youth group, having my church friends, I married someone from my church. So we have like that beautiful like history together. But I think as I've gotten older, I've started to understand just how vital faith is in my internal world. So I can go to church and have fun with my friends and pray and be engaged in worship. I was a worship leader for about 8 years. So all of those things are wonderful ways to access that. But having these quiet internal moments of understanding myself outside of what everybody else thinks, all the people in the world, but then relating to what myself and my relationship with my faith and my God is, right? So being able to say, I was always valuable from the very beginning. I have inherent worth and value, and I don't need to just come up with that on my own. It's true. It's a true thing. So then to pray, meditate, do yoga, all those things are sort of a practice in faithfulness anyway, right, for me, because I'm already engaged in this process of self-loving, self-seeing, self-understanding, this clarity process, but also acknowledging that I was made to be who I am. And that's beautiful, that's meaningful. And I really liked your comment about how often we're worried about the things we do and how we look and who we are and what people define us as. But at the end of the day, we need to define who we are, right? We need to know who we are. And when we find that in our prayer, in our times of quiet reflection, in our moments of just looking at everything clearly, all the good, all the bad, all the messy, all the great, things we like, things we don't, that's full. And it's better to be seeing things fully and holding it than it is to be like picking out these tiny things. And I think that in my own faith journey, one of the biggest pieces of healing for me came from this process of thoughtful meditation and prayer, where I was able to say, no, I was created with worth and value, and the things that I bring to the table belong to me, and they belong to me for a reason. All the things that were hard about my childhood and my past, all the things that I still grapple with as an adult, but then also all these beautiful things about how I can see them, how I can hold them. I think that's really part of my faith.
Because you've been able to go on this faith journey and include a connection to the divine as your guiding star, you've been able to go out into the world and help other people in a really unique and interesting way. What has that been like, and what has that path looked like?
Yeah, thanks for saying that too. I think one thing about the job that I do, working with refugees, doing mental health work with them, is that they are often not the same faith that I would be, but there is a truth and an honesty and a beauty in being able to see people, regardless of what we've gone through, let go and say, there's something bigger than me. There's a purpose here. There's something bigger than just me making it, me making money, me getting through, me succeeding. it's bigger than that. It's about us as humans. It's about humanity, and being able to access that and take our faith to give us strength in times when we need it, to be able to take our faith and allow it to give us hope when we're not feeling sure, and to let it be a guiding star for how we engage with the people around us is so powerful. I work with a lot of Muslim women from Syria, women from Iraq, and it's so beautiful to see them talk about that concept. We don't have the same faith, we don't do the same thing, but in so many ways our God is the same.
Yeah. What you're talking about is stripping down the walls in between us, the walls that we put up, that society puts up, and tearing that all down and looking into the eyes of others and seeing them as our sisters and our brothers. And that is joy. That is authenticity.
Absolutely. I think you said it so well. I think that when we are in the place of truth with ourselves, and when we just look at somebody and embrace the things they bring to the table, every piece of it, whether we understand it or not, doesn't really matter, because they're a real person in front of us. And I even think about that in small interactions, right? Like if I just met you, would I want you to leave our interaction being, how would I want you to leave our interaction thinking? Would I want you to think, oh, that was okay, or oh, I'm just gonna forget about that? And of course, some of that has to do with whatever you're going through. But I would hope you left the interaction feeling like that was positive. There was something there, even if it was never spoken. I felt seen.
Yes.
I felt valued.
My mom calls this having just one chance. That in every interaction we have just one chance to help someone else to feel seen, heard, understood, and important.
Absolutely. That is like, I would have to say that's kind of like my life mantra as well. Like I want every person that I encounter, no matter how brief, to feel seen.
Yes.
And you matter. Everyone matters, you know? And so being able to say, no matter what we're doing, no matter where we're coming from, no matter how many things we're wrestling with inside right now, or we're fighting with somebody, but every moment we have this opportunity to give that to somebody, the space.
Yes. And when we can see ourselves and see others, that's magic.
Oh, absolutely.
When two authentic beings are comfortable in their own skin and seeing each other, that's true connection. And I think that's what the world craves and needs the most.
Oh, I totally agree, especially now.
Yes.
You know, things feel scary, things feel divisive. And so I think the more we can access what is true for me and who am I, and how do I give strength to that, and then how do I impart it to others and create a space that feels like you get to be you fully and stand in this space fully.
Safe.
As
Totally
a
safe.
performer,
Yeah.
you will love this, but I just love the quote from Les Miserables that says, to love another person is to see the face of God.
Oh,
and I truly believe that.
Oh, I do too. I do too. And I think we can extend that to everyone, you know,
For
to
sure.
anyone.
Well, we like to ask all of our guests our favorite question, which is if you could give one piece of advice to our audience on how they can go and be in the world, what would that be?
Okay, so my piece of advice would probably be to take yourself, see yourself, and embrace yourself, and then go out into the world and provide a safe space for anyone else to do the same. So as you go and be out in the world, embrace it, love it, and cherish the people in your life, whether you know them well or not.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
love that. I could talk to Jennica for hours. I feel like we are soul sisters because I love yoga and I love performing and I love all the things. So we'll have to continue this conversation. And you
would
will
love
too.
to.
Follow Jennica on social media and see everything that she's up to in changing the world. We love you and we are so grateful that you are giving us some of your time. We would ask that you would go into the world and be the person that you were meant to be. Strip yourself of that box and embrace every facet of your beautiful individuality. Whatever you do, whoever you are, we invite you today to go and be.
Sweet Salt. Save 15% at Seagull Book and sweetsaltclothing.com.